Good evening. This is Pamela, and you're listening to Watchmen on the Pod. All right, we are going to conclude our book reading Awful Disclosures, A Nun's Life, a Convent Exposed. This is the extracts from public journals relating to the truth of Maria Monk's disclosures. The following certificate appeared in the Protestant Vindicator in March 1836. We, the subscribers, have an acquaintance with Miss Maria Monk, and having considered the evidence of various kinds which have been collected in relation to her case, have no hesitation in declaring our belief in the truth of the statements she makes in her book, recently published in New York, entitled Awful Disclosures. We at the same time declare that the assertion originally made in the Roman Catholic newspapers of Boston that the book was copied from a work entitled The Gates of Hell Opened is wholly destitute of foundation, it being entirely new, not copied from anything whatsoever. And we further declare that no evidence has been produced which discredits the statements of Miss Monk, while on the contrary her story has yet received and continues to receive confirmation from various sources. During the last week, two important witnesses spontaneously appeared and offered to give public testimony in her favor. From them, the following delineations have been received. First is an affidavit given by Mr. William Miller, now a resident of the city. Second is a statement received from a young married woman who, with her husband, also resides here. In the clear and repeated statements made by these two witnesses, we place entire reliance, are ready to furnish satisfaction to any persons making reasonable inquiries on the subject. W.C. Brownrigg, John J. Slocum, Andrew Bruce, B. Henshaw, Amos Belden, David Wesson, Thomas Hogan. From the American Protestant Vindicator, it was expected that after Maria Monk's disclosures, an artful attempt would be made to invalidate her testimony, which was done secretly after escape from the Hotel du Nunnery, by so alerting the appearance of that institution by planking and bricking and stoning as to deceive Colonel Stone, who was then requested to examine it for himself and the world. Colonel misrepresented what he saw. He was deceived regarding those alterations by the inmates who dragged him, as it were, by force through the building during his examination, which was performed in the amazingly short space of a few hours. By time, I'm sorry, not by time, but time in the grand unraveler of mysteries. On the appearance of the book of Miss Monk, the hoodwinked people of Montreal were so surprised and stupefied at finding that the immaculate purity of the Hotel Dieu had been so disparaged that they forgot to think seriously on the subject. But understanding that the story had gained almost general belief abroad, they at last were led to conjecture that perhaps it was partiality that prevented them from believing it at home. General attention, therefore, in Montreal was directed towards that edifice, and those residing in its immediate vicinity cast a retrospective glance over what they had seen transacted there between the time at which the disclosures were published and the visit of Colonel Stone. The result of this investigation has been lately given on the spot to the Reverend James P. Miller of New York, who visited that city for the purpose of hearing that the truth was gradually coming to light. Neighbors informed Mr. Miller that about the time it was rumored that she had exposed the institution, a mysterious pile of planks 25 feet in height had been placed mysteriously in the yard, which were wonderfully and gradually used in progressing some improvements in the building. They were neither employed outside nor hauled away. Whatever may be the fact that with regard to Maria Monk's alleged disclosures, those of our people who have read your papers are satisfied on one point, that Mr. Stone's credibility as a witness has been successfully impeached, that his examination of the nunnery was a mere sham, that he was either the dupe of Jesuitical imposture or that he himself is a fond imposture. He has been unwilling or ignorantly befooled, and unless he has had a tangible reward, that he has got his labor in it for his pains. My wife, who spent her childhood in Montreal, says that she and her schoolmates, when walking in the street near the nunnery, often used to wonder if the famous subterranean passage was under the place where they then stood. And yet, forsooth, no person in Canada ever heard, never heard of it before. Whatever may be the facts in relation to those disclosures, we needed not your paper to satisfy us either that Jesuits must be as holy as the Blessed Virgin Mother herself, or that those con- conventicles of unprotected females are scenes of the most damning character. A Protestant. From the Long Island Star of February 29th. Since the publication of our last paper, we have received a communication from Messrs. Howe and Bates of New York, the publishers of Miss Monk's awful disclosures. It appears that some influence has been at work in that city, adverse to the free examination of the case between her and the priest of Canada. For thus far the newspapers have been most entirely closed anything against everything in her defense, while most of them have published false charges against the book, some of a preposterous nature, the contradiction of which is plain and fallible. Returning to New York, she then first resolved to publish her story, which she has recently done after several intelligent, disinterested persons had satisfied themselves by much examination that it is true. When it became known in Canada that this was her intention, 6 affidavits were published in some of the newspapers intended to destroy confidence in her character. These were found very contradictory in several important points, and in others to afford undersigned confirmation of statements before made by her. On the publication of her book, The New York Catholic Diary, The Truth Teller, and Green Banner and other papers made virulent attacks upon it. One of them proposed that the publisher should be lynched. An anonymous handbill was also circulated in New York declaring the work a malignant libel got up by Protestant clergymen and promising an ample refutation of it in a few days. These were republished in the Catholic Diary, etc., with the old Montreal affidavits, which later were distributed through New York and Brooklyn, and on the authority of these several Protestant newspapers denounced the work as false and malicious. Another charge, quite inconsistent with the rest, was also made not only by the leading Roman Catholic papers, but by several others at second hand. It was a mere copy of an old European work. This had been promptly denied by the publishers with the offer of $100 bills for any book at all resembling it. Yet such is the resolution of some and the unbelief of others that it is impossible for the publishers to obtain insertion for the replies in the New York papers generally, and they have also been unsuccessful in an attempt at Philadelphia. This is the ground on which the following article has been offered to us for publication in the Star. It was offered to Mr. Schindler, a Roman priest and editor of the Catholic Diary, for insertion in his paper of Saturday before last, but refused, although written expressly as an answer to the affidavits and charges his previous number had contained. The article has also been refused insertion in a Philadelphia daily paper after it had been satisfactorily ascertained that there was no hope of gaining admission for it into any of the New York papers. It should be stated, in addition, that the authoress of the book, Maria Monk, is in New York and stands ready to answer any questions and submit to any inquiries put in a proper manner, and desires nothing so strongly as an opportunity to prove before a court the truth of her story. She has already found several persons of respectability who have confirmed some of the facts, important and likely to be attested by current evidence, and much further testimony in her favor may be soon expected by the public. With these facts before them, intelligent readers will judge for themselves. She asks for investigation while her opponents deny her every opportunity to meet the charges made against her. Mr. Schneller, after expressing to the publishers a wish to see her, refused to meet her anywhere unless in his own house, while Mr. Porter, another Roman Catholic priest, called to see her at 10 o'clock one night, accompanied by another man, without giving their names, and under the false pretense of being bearers of a letter from her brother in Montreal. Sow the good seed. Let your light shine. Circulate truthful documents. Pass around the Truth Seeker tracts and other liberal publications to do missionary work to help in opening the eyes of the blind. Truth Seeker tracts and the Truth Seeker leaflets are furnished at prices very low so that societies and generous individuals can buy them for gratuitous distribution. Large discounts to those who purchase by the quantity, the price list. And this is just what I believe the publisher of this book from years ago had on here. I'm assuming I could keep reading. Let's see. Probably a few dollars can be expended for spreading truth and light in no way so effectually as in dispensing broadcast. Truth seeker tracts and leaflets. Let liberals exercise liberality enough to give away thousands and tens of thousands of these little evangels. They are well designed to do missionary work in spreading the glad tidings of truth. If a proper enthusiasm is enkindled in the breast of the lovers of free thought and mental liberty, much good can be accomplished. And that's D.M. Bennett. And I believe that is it, brothers and sisters. It has a lot of his works. D.M. Bennett, the publisher. Oh, it's got the great works of Thomas Paine, complete, uh, containing his theological writings and his chief political works. Analysis of religious belief, modern gods of modern faiths, ancient gods and ancient faiths, the champions of the church, the world sages, thinkers, and reformers. So books were like $4 back then, $3, $4.50. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to be wrong on this, but if I'm not mistaken, that Thomas Paine, wasn't he a heretic? Or am I thinking of somebody different? I may be thinking of somebody different. Because it says containing his theological writings and his chief political works, it contains, no, he's the heretic. Common sense, the crisis, the rights of man, the age of reason. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a heretic. He's a complete heretic. Yeah. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. All right, brothers and sisters, that completes our book here on awful disclosures, a nun's life in a convent exposed. And you can better believe it still happens today. It's very, very sad. We really need to pray for the Roman Catholic people. We need to pray for those who are so deceived. It is a false religion. Um, it is. It's antichrist religion. Truth be told, it is. Call no one your father, for ye have one Father, and he sits in heaven, not on the throne in Rome. Bow down to no man. You bow down to God and God alone. Kiss no man's ring on his hand. There's so many things. That religion is antichrist. I pray that your eyes be opened if you are a Roman Catholic. Keep your eyes on Jesus, brothers and sisters. Your nose in the book, which is the Word of God. Embed the Word of God upon the tablets of our hearts so you and I will not sin against God or be deceived. I love you all.